It all started with a single phone call. I was lying in bed, drifting between wakefulness and sleep, when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. The screen lit up with an unfamiliar number, a string of digits I didn't recognize. Normally, I wouldn't have answered so late, but something about the silence in the room made me hesitate. Against my better judgment, I swiped to accept. At first, there was nothing but static, a low hiss that filled my ear like wind blowing through a cavern. I said hello once, then twice, but no one responded. I was about to hang up when the static shifted. A voice emerged, broken, garbled, yet mistakably speaking my name. Not just my name, but the way my mother used to say it when I was a child, soft and drawn out, like a lullaby. "Who is this?" I whispered, my throat suddenly dry. The voice distorted further, words slipping in and out, phrases like, "Do you see it?" and "behind you." My skin prickled, and I bolted upright, scanning my dark room. Nothing moved, but the air felt heavy, charged, as if someone were holding their breath nearby. I hung up, heart pounding, and convinced myself it was a prank. Wrong number, I thought. Some kid messing around with a voice changer. But when I set the phone back down, it buzzed again, immediately. Same number, same string of digits. I declined the call. 30 seconds later, it rang again. That night, it kept happening until dawn. Every time I answered, the voice was there, sometimes whispering my name, sometimes laughing softly, other times just breathing. I barely slept, and when morning finally came, I convinced myself that it'd just been some sick joke, that it wouldn't happen again.
But the calls didn't stop. The next night, the phone rang at exactly 2:46 a.m., the same number. This time I ignored it, burying the phone under a pillow. Minutes later, my roommate's phone rang from the other side of the apartment. I froze, listening, then heard his door creak open. "Dude, did you just call me?" he asked, stepping into the hall. I shook my head, and we exchanged confused looks. He held out his phone, and my stomach dropped. The same strange number glowed on his screen. Over the following days, it escalated. The calls came to both of us, sometimes simultaneously, sometimes minutes apart. No matter how many times we blocked the number, it found its way back, slipping past every setting, every firewall. The voice began to say more, describing our apartment, our routines, even what we were wearing. One night it whispered, "Blue shirt, broken watch, sitting in the corner." And when I looked down, I was wearing exactly that. Sleep became impossible. Every creak of the building, every groan of the pipes made me jump. We tried leaving the phones off, but it didn't matter. Landline calls came, then video calls, though the screens showed nothing but static or darkness. Still, faintly, we could hear the breathing. Then, the voice said something new, something that made my blood run cold. "I'm already inside." We tore through the apartment that night, checking closets, cabinets, even the crawl space. Nothing. Yet the feeling lingered. Someone or something was with us. A week passed. My roommate couldn't take it anymore and left to stay with his girlfriend. I thought being alone would be worse, but strangely, the calls grew quieter, less frequent, almost as if it preferred me by myself. I started answering again. I don't know why. Maybe curiosity, maybe a desperate need to understand. Each time, The voice grew clearer, less distorted, more human, but it never gave me a name. It only repeated mine over and over until finally it whispered something I'll never forget. "Look outside your window." I froze. Slowly, I turned toward the glass. Rain pattered against it, distorting the streetlights below. But through the streaks of water, I saw a figure standing perfectly still on the sidewalk, head tilted upward, watching my window. The phone hissed. The voice chuckled, low and ragged. "Now you see me?"
I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured that figure on the sidewalk. It didn't move, not once, not even when a car drove past and splashed water across its legs. Just stood there, face hidden in shadow, body rigid like a mannequin. When the first hint of daylight came, I finally dared to look again. The sidewalk was empty. No footprints, no sign that anyone had been there. For a few hours, I convinced myself it had been my imagination, until I checked my phone. The call log was filled with dozens of missed calls from that same number, all logged between 2:46 a.m. and 4 a.m., when I knew, without a doubt, I hadn't touched the phone. That evening, I tried to distract myself with TV, with noise, with anything that might keep my mind occupied. I muted my phone and shoved it in a drawer. But right on time, 2:46 a.m., a sound echoed through the apartment. Not the phone's ring, something else. Knocking. Soft, deliberate knocks. First at the front door, then the bedroom window, then the bathroom wall. 3 knocks each time. I sat frozen in bed, my skin crawling, my ears straining to catch the rhythm. Knock, knock, knock. A pause. Then again. The sound seemed to move around the apartment, circling me. I couldn't take it anymore. I yanked open the drawer and grabbed the phone. One new voicemail. Hands trembling, I pressed play. The message was short, distorted, almost drowned in static, but I heard the words clearly enough. "Let me in." The next morning I packed a bag and left. I didn't care where I went, only that it was away from that apartment. I checked into a cheap motel on the edge of town. No one knew where I was, not even my roommate. I left my phone switched off and shoved it deep in my backpack. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. That night, I slept. But at 2:46 a.m., the motel room phone rang. I sat bolt upright, staring at the cheap plastic receiver on the nightstand. My hands shook as I picked it up. Static, then softly. "You can't hide." I dropped the phone and stumbled back, my chest heaving. The room felt wrong, colder, smaller. I spun around, searching every corner, but there was no one there. No shadows out of place. Just me and the faint hum of the motel's air conditioner. The calls didn't stop after that. Every night, no matter where I went, no matter what phone I used, it found me. Payphones on the street rang as I walked by. Hotel staff knocked on my door, only to insist they hadn't. Even radios in passing cars would crackle with my name when tuned between stations. And always, it was 2:46 a.m. I stopped answering for a while, but that didn't help. The messages grew stranger, longer. Sometimes it was just heavy breathing, other times laughter. But more and more, it was the voice describing things I hadn't told anyone. A scar on my knee from childhood, the way my father used to whistle when he cooked. Private memories, things buried deep. The breaking point came when it whispered, "Check the mirror." I did. I don't know why. I shouldn't have, but I did. And in that motel bathroom, with the flickering fluorescent light buzzing overhead, I looked into the mirror and saw myself. Only not myself. My reflection didn't move when I did. It just stared, expressionless, its mouth slowly curving into a grin I knew I wasn't making. I slammed the light off, heart racing, and when I turned it back on, the reflection was normal again. But the phone buzzed in my hand. Another voicemail. I didn't listen to it. Couldn't. I left that motel at sunrise, walking until my feet bled, avoiding every reflective surface I could. I ended up back at my apartment eventually, too exhausted to keep running. Maybe part of me hoped it had all been a hallucination. That night, I told myself I wouldn't answer, no matter what. At 2:46 a.m., the phone rang and rang and rang. Finally, shaking, I picked it up. The voice was clearer than it had ever been. No static, no distortion. Just words that sank into me like ice. Turn around.
I froze, the phone pressed tight against my ear. Slowly, against every screaming instinct in my body, I turned. The room was dark, but I wasn't alone. Something stood in the corner near my dresser, a tall, thin silhouette, darker than the shadows around it. Its head tilted at an unnatural angle, like it didn't quite understand how to hold itself. The voice whispered again, though this time it wasn't from the phone. It was in the room, right behind my ear. Finally. I dropped the phone. It clattered to the floor, the call still connected, the screen glowing faintly. The figure stepped forward, one foot dragging as though it hadn't walked in a long time. My body locked. I couldn't scream, couldn't breathe. The thing leaned closer. The smell of damp earth and static filled my nostrils. I swear I felt its breath against my skin. And then it vanished. The room was empty again. Only my phone remained, screen dark now, as if it had never rung at all. But that wasn't the end. From then on, it followed me everywhere. Not always seen, but felt, in the corner of my eye, in the silence between sounds, in the mirrors I dared not look into. The calls still came, though now they were less frequent. It didn't need them anymore. It had me. Sometimes I wake up at 2:46 a.m. without the phone ringing, heart pounding, already knowing it's near. Sometimes I see the figure standing on the street again, watching, waiting. Other times I catch my reflection grinning at me when I'm not. The worst part isn't the fear, it's the inevitability. The knowledge that one day, when the phone rings again and I answer, I won't be able to hang up. That when it finally says, "Let me in," I'll obey. Because deep down, I think it already has.